Please subscribe my channel. Imagine this. At just 4 years old, my birth parents deserted me in a bustling airport, leaving a small crimson scarf trailing over the chilly tile floor as their figures vanished into the distance. Echoing a heartbreaking deception I had no choice but to accept. 3 decades passed, and suddenly they strutted into a Los Angeles courtroom with arrogant grins, certain they could seize every penny I'd earned. Little did they realize the little girl they discarded had transformed into a woman skilled in quiet endurance, influence, and calculated timing. When the bailiff's commanding voice rang out, "All rise for the honorable judge," the atmosphere in the room thickened with tension, and it dawned on me that this battle went far beyond finances. It centered on a devastating revelation they never saw coming, one that would shatter their world entirely. That airport scene remains vivid in my mind even now, after all these years. Terminal B at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport buzzed with gate calls and the rumble of wheeled luggage. Yet I felt utterly detached, as if submerged in deep water amid the frantic energy surrounding me. I was only 4, wrapped snugly in a crimson scarf that irritated my skin, my tiny hands gripping it desperately for comfort. Michael and Jennifer Thompson strode ahead, glancing at their watches, marching in perfect unison without a single backward look or any sign they remembered I was there. Their gazes never landed on mine. As they gestured toward the massive luggage claim zone, their tones were abrupt and detached. "Stay right here," they instructed, their faces showing ease rather than worry. I plopped down and began tallying suitcases. 1, 10, 50, 100. The belt churned endlessly while the crowds dwindled. By the count of 500, a harsh reality hit me that no young child should ever face. I hadn't been misplaced by accident. They had abandoned me deliberately. The emptiness of that deserted terminal weighed down on me, oppressive and overwhelming. It showed me how deeply neglect can wound, far more than harsh words ever could, and how easily the world might overlook someone's disappearance. Then a kind stranger emerged, a gentleman in a charcoal suit, unremarkable yet purposeful in his approach. He crouched before me without making contact, simply meeting my eyes and recognizing my presence. "My name is Robert," he murmured softly. A security officer had begun calling for assistance over the radio, but Robert gently but firmly signaled no. In that pivotal moment, a stranger selected me when my own family refused to. He remained by my side until officials took over, guided me through various foster homes, and ultimately became my permanent guardian. Robert shunned any praise. He led a modest, understated life, quietly aiding those in need. Only upon his passing did I discover he had wisely amassed a substantial wealth through careful investments, building it steadily without fanfare, and bequeathing it all to me. $5.5 million. It wasn't the sort of inheritance that could mend a shattered childhood, but it commanded respect from society in a way nothing else had. And the initial outreach wasn't born of affection or kinship. It arrived via a court server. Michael and Jennifer Thompson had resurfaced, this time not inquiring about my well-being. They were launching a lawsuit against me. I pored over their filing gradually, waves of shock washing over me. They alleged I had wandered off unintentionally, that their souls had suffered immense sorrow for years, portraying themselves as unfortunate casualties of fate. Each claim felt like a staged act, every line crafted to sow seeds of self-doubt in my mind. But I held the undeniable facts. I wasn't the helpless one. They were opportunistic, scheming, and believed they could reclaim me like an asset. There in my home, with the crimson scarf draped across my knees, I understood that restraint could serve as a powerful tool. They had ignited this conflict, yet I possessed 3 decades of restraint, insight, and self-mastery. I refused to break down or plead. Instead, I resolved to hold them accountable, not through aggression, but through the strength of the legal system. That initial evening clutching the legal papers, I sat motionless. The packet seemed heavier than any burden I'd borne before. Michael and Jennifer Thompson demanded every dollar Robert had gifted me, $5.5 million. No phone call, no letter, just a formal demand, as if entitlement alone secured it for them. I gazed at their signatures on the documents, and for the first time in ages, a profound fury stirred within me. rising gradually like molten rock under a frozen surface. I held back from reacting right away. Childhood was behind me. I had become Sophia, a judicial figure in my own domain, instinctively aware that impulsive feelings would only undermine me. Rather, I reached out to an expert capable of revealing hidden details, a skilled forensic accountant named Laura Mitchell. She was renowned for exposing concealed facts buried in piles of financial records. I provided her with the complaint and one clear directive: dig deep into the past, transactions, invoices, real estate documents, everything traceable from 1995 forward. While Laura investigated, memories of that terminal flooded back relentlessly. That fateful day revealed my parents' willingness to prioritize anything over me. The crimson scarf, the icy seating, the steady drone of the luggage belt, they were etched permanently into my soul. The deeper I reflected, the greater my outrage grew, not solely over the funds, but at their brazen entitlement and deliberate heartlessness. They had viewed me as disposable, profited from my vanishing, and now dared to re-enter my world pretending otherwise. Then Laura contacted me late one evening. My home's silent save for the software of the furnace. Check the records from 1996, she stated matter-of-factly. I watched as she displayed an old lawsuit file. My parents had taken legal action against the airline, asserting I had gone missing on a supervised minor trip to visit an ill family member. The company settled, providing them a significant payout back then. But the agreement involved more than cash and sworn statement. I examined it thoroughly. They had officially pronounced me deceased. Their very signatures verified it. A chilling sense of clarity mingled with boiling anger inside me. Every smug expression and deliberate move in their current suit now carried measurable consequences. The girl they left behind had been exploited once. They assumed they could repeat it. This time, however, I held strength. 3 decades of wisdom, position, and endurance armed me. They had flung open this gateway. I was prepared to cross it. The shift didn't happen overnight. It stemmed from recognizing that buried history wasn't truly gone. Their deceptions, avarice, and deceit had left detectable marks, clues for anyone determined enough to trace them. And determination defined me. 30 years of quiet observation had trained me perfectly. 30 years of holding back had equipped me for this exact confrontation. They had misjudged me, as always. By night's end, a strategy crystallized. I wouldn't merely protect myself. I would allow justice to achieve what my pleas and sorrow never did. I would compile every shred of proof, every autograph, every transfer, crafting an irrefutable argument their facade couldn't withstand. They believed they targeted a weak opponent. They failed to see they had entered a contest they couldn't dominate. For the first time in years, a sharp sense of determination ignited into resolve. At my kitchen table amid piles of invoices, transfers, and archived deeds, I grasped how profoundly my existence had been robbed, not just financially, but in moments, confidence, and purity. My living space carried the faint aroma of stale brew and documents, starkly differing from the immaculate formality of the courthouse I now frequented. Every paper I handled evoked their systematic selfishness. Each creased edge and blurred text testified to their thorough efforts to erase me. I contacted Laura once more, detailing the complete investigation required. Examine all records starting from 1995. I directed, my tone firm and composed. I need full details on every fund source and settlement destination. Her response was straightforward and expert. No sympathy, no opinion, purely data and evidence. Precisely what suited me. This wasn't driven by uncontrolled wrath. It was about constructing an unbreakable argument. As she delved deeper, I mentally returned to that airport. The luggage belt's rhythm, the dimming overheads as people departed, the frigid bench where I tallied 500 items. That overwhelming quiet had once devastated me, but now it felt transformative. It became my guide, my instructor, teaching restraint, attentiveness, the value of pausing before responding. I mentally mapped each recollection, noting elements that could sway outcomes. Soon, the initial breakthrough surfaced. Transfers from the 1996 payout, verified declarations, and documentation proving my parents had gained from my disappearance. They had indulged in luxuries while others assumed they mourned. Each discovery intensified the pressure within me, yet I contained it. Unbridled emotion would only hinder. I had mastered composure from years presiding over cases. Every pause, controlled inhale, subtle gesture counted. Within days, the framework of my counterclaim emerged. Those who created their own downfall were about to confront the realities they concealed. I glanced at the crimson scarf neatly placed on my workspace, a tattered remnant from that abandonment day. No longer mere protection. It symbolized endurance and the strength I now harnessed. I organized the files precisely, poised to convert each betrayal into solid proof. When my parents arrived anticipating a vulnerable girl, they would encounter the resilient woman who had prepared 3 decades for this. Their overconfidence would collide with unyielding fairness. They had initiated this. They were stepping into an inescapable snare. Sleep evaded me that night, but exhaustion didn't matter. Each moment analyzing transfers, statements, and declarations felt like a vow. The day they entered that courtroom, I would stand prepared. And on that day, I would no longer be the deserted child. I would hold authority. The morning they arrived back in Los Angeles, I waited calmly in the courthouse, the chamber vacant except for the low buzz of overhead lights. My parents, Michael and Jennifer, entered tardily, brimming with assurance, grinning like hunters confident in their domain. Their lawyer trailed behind, clutching organized files, wearing a self-satisfied smirk as if victory was assured. They avoided eye contact with me. They were unaware I would oversee proceedings that day. I bided my time until the bailiff's declaration, my fingers resting over the crimson scarf I kept close, a token of every hardship overcome and survival earned. The space fell hushed, charged with anticipation evoking chilled steel and varnished timber. Their grins widened as the clerk announced their matter, presuming I'd step aside or yield to pressure. They had no clue the setup was complete. Their opening witness advanced, delivering practice tales of a misplaced daughter, enduring heartache over 30 years, the torment of powerless guardians. Their delivery flowed convincingly to anyone unfamiliar with reality. I observed impassively, allowing each falsehood to linger unresolved. My heartbeat remained even, my mind clear. Anger had no role here. Only tactics and endurance prevailed. Then arrived the instant that transformed everything. I summoned Emma Thompson to testify. She approached the stand, posture slightly bowed, as if long accustomed to excusing her existence. Yet her words carried steady conviction. She recounted growing up in a household overshadowed by a fabricated tragedy not her own, serving as the substitute offspring, embodying her parents' deceit. I noted Michael's unease, a faint shake in his grip as Emma revealed truths. Jennifer's lips parted then shut, struggling to accept the collapsing narrative they'd sustained for years. Emma's steady, incisive tone sliced through the proceedings. She detailed expenditures, vacations, and betting logs aligning precisely with periods they professed to search for me. The inescapable conclusion: they had reveled, benefited, deceived. I permitted quiet to settle after every disclosure, allowing the depth of their disloyalty to resonate. Stillness became my greatest asset, honed over 30 years. Each interlude amplified the impact of their treachery. Their counsel fidgeted with documents anxiously. The parents' arrogance wavered, giving way to hints of dread. The facade they'd maintained so long disintegrated gradually. Then I inclined forward subtly, palms on the dais, the crimson scarf tucked underneath. The authenticated 1996 declaration lay prominent, undeniable. They had endorsed it personally, formally stating my death for compensation. Their handwriting formed the bonds restraining them. I allowed the implication to resonate, an irrefutable climax. The bailiff's firm call echoed. All rise for the honorable judge. The chamber dynamic changed as gazes turned to me. Briefly, their reality wavered. The arrogant figures they embodied suddenly appeared diminished, ensnared, revealed. I stood deliberately, passing the plaintiff's side, my steps echoing resolutely on the gleaming surface. They glanced upward, at last comprehending my evolution, not the terrified youngster, but the commanding presence they undervalued. I spoke to them plainly, my voice steady, piercing, resolute. You discarded me. You left me behind, profited from my loss, and presumed you could repeat it. Today, however, this tribunal will address the repercussions of your actions. Each statement struck accurately. They attempted objections, tears, appeals, but justice stood firm, bolstered by 30 years of meticulous readiness. I directed the bailiff to submit all proof, transfers, statements, declarations, and logs across decades. Emma's account bolstered the facts, each element sealing their deception's fate. I observed Michael slump defeatedly. Jennifer quivered, their boldness supplanted by evident terror of exposure. Their lawyer attempted objections, but the tide had turned permanently. The clerk recited the pivotal declaration verbatim, every phrase hammering their illusion. They had officially confirmed my demise. Now they lacked standing to contest the bequest or their initiated action. They imagined pursuing a weak target. Unaware they faced a jurist expert in endurance, mastery, and planning. Every deception, arrogant stare, contrived expression unraveled through 30 years of assembled truth, presented impeccably. I paused briefly, permitting them to absorb full revelation before concluding. Case dismissed with prejudice. The claimants shall be forwarded to the prosecutor's office for review regarding false statements and deception. The hammer strike sealed it. Michael and Jennifer inhaled sharply as their facade collapsed instantly. Authorities approached, and after 30 years, I experienced the profound calm of fairness. Not revenge, but verity, certainty, and expertly directed outcomes. I faced away from them, exiting with Emma at my side. For years, they hunted, I evaded as prey. Now roles reversed, and while the chamber cleared, echoes of that fairness would endure beyond their falsehoods. Once the room emptied, I lingered in the stillness, absorbing the resolution. Michael and Jennifer Thompson no longer wielded dominance. Their standing ruined, assets and sway draining away like sand. News might highlight it briefly, yet my reality endured eternally. I avoided triumph or glee. Fairness isn't gratification, it's equilibrium regained. I turned to Emma, who had remained supportively nearby. Her burden of remorse and anxiety appeared eased. At last, she escaped enacting sorrow or sustaining an untrue tale. Our shared look conveyed understanding. Though history couldn't vanish, it ceased controlling us. The fortune Robert bequeathed, $5.5 million, transcended luxury. I channeled it into creating the Luggage Legacy Foundation, dedicated to aiding youth transitioning from foster care, guaranteeing no one ever felt forsaken, unseen, or valueless. Each contribution vowed protection when others failed. Sometime later, we gathered in a cozy Los Angeles coffee shop, steaming mugs in hand, the crimson scarf encircling my neck as an emblem of perseverance. Emma chuckled at my remark, her tone finally unburdened. It struck me then that mere endurance wasn't sufficient. Renewal was possible, step by step, rooted in compassion, honesty, and equity. Our history molded us, yet no longer confined us. I savored my drink, the crimson scarf a mark of resilience over vulnerability. Emma opposite me beamed genuinely after so long. The urban hustle continued beyond the windows, but within reigned peace, the serenity following turmoil. I had regained my path, and through that, empowered others to reclaim theirs. If this tale moved you, leave your reflections below and follow along, because nobody deserves to endure disloyalty in isolation.